Hi again. It's my turn to carry on to add another episode of those articles that I'm doing till the moment. People know it. It's not new anymore. I made it clear, so those very few watchers or followers, I think they understand it. So I'm still having much to add. This episode is gonna be one of the longest ones, like the previous two I made, and so this one is gonna be more and less like that. And doing articles, I bring them from Sky News almost always, or most of the time. I come here with them, and then I read them. I talk a little bit about them, and then I explain vocabulary, and I finish. I'm doing it in half an hour, something like that. I find it such a good way. It helps me so much to improve and to get my skills better. I can notice a big difference. This is really works for 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 someone, for example, who I don't know, just if they want to follow whatever or do the same, this sort of activities to keep speaking loud and reading and just practicing all the stuff at the same time that is connected to building up and improving a foreign language. I think this way is smart enough for me. It works and I am keeping on. I have I said I'm convinced that I am gonna carry on here for some years. I think I will be achieve so much because it just in a very short period of time I can see what has changed. That motivates me so much to keep going, because this is good for me. I think a couple of years or three, doing the same, that would be something like I will say by then how I will be at at personal level when it comes to this language. This is it. Yeah, I've just a number of time I explained what I do, and I showed all the stuff that I worked on till the moment. So it's there. People can check out and see and observe everything. But as I said before, of course, or as I say always, I have always to be speaking a little bit before I start any activity. For example, because it's always possible that somebody will come for the first time across one of my videos in YouTube, and at least they will see, how it goes, and then I start, of course. It's I think it's good. I can start directly and finish, but it's can dedicate some minutes before to speak a little bit like this. It depends. I will be talking about what I'm doing in one way or the other. That's the same, but I think it does worth it to be to do so before starting. This is it. Yeah, it's just clear. I'm bringing articles, things that happen or connected or have to do with England, the UK. That's the Prime Minister of the UK, of England, Mr. Boris Johnson. He's a smart man. So if he runs, a campaign in my city, I would vote for him. In Imzoren, I can give him my vote. But I don't think that there will be somebody like him, in my city. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Good luck for everybody who is doing anything. So whether it's getting running for the elections or elected already or whatever. That's I'm not living with politics, but I love this man. He's smart at politics. He's brilliant, and I can of course really vote for somebody like him. It's Mr. Boris Johnson, and the article is about England. Well, one issue that is related to England, and I have here some vocabulary. I got 3 words that I explained. Then I will show their meaning later when I am close to finish, and then I will I will end up the video. Okay, so I have another episode to add today, and well, until I come back again for another one. It's always a pleasure and special to come and to do a little bit, to offer something there, and carry on with life in general. That's how it goes. I have to be. I think any person can be just busy building up something and be there always, constantly, to just live and add things at the same time. Just to build up abilities, to live and be happy, healthy, take care, everything. And I think that's how it goes. There are things that you have to be improving always. Every person, it helps, because anything that you add of importance, it's like more possibilities and advantages, and it's like chances, I would say. All right, anyway, I'm going to read the article, and then I talk a bit about it, as I always do. It's already shown. All right, I read. So, COVID-19, Boris Johnson not expecting to isolate after member of his staff tested positive. Other people on the trip reportedly self-isolated in Scotland after a member of Mr. Johnson's staff tested positive, but number 10 denied the PM had come into close contact. The Prime Minister is not expected to isolate after taking a flight this week with a member of his staff who has tested positive for COVID-19. Boris Johnson was on the same plane as the person but did not come within 2 meters of them, Sky News understands. A number 10 spokesman said the Prime Minister regularly visits communities across the UK, and all aspects of visits are carried out in line with COVID guidance. The Prime Minister has not come into close contact with anyone who has tested positive. Mr. Johnson was in Scotland this week here, where he discussed COP26 policing with the head of Police Scotland and visited an offshore wind farm. The staff member who tested positive for COVID-19 isolated in Scotland, and all those identified as close contacts were told to do the same, The Guardian reported. Government guidance on what constitutes a close contact says a person may also be a close contact if they have traveled in the same vehicle or plane as a person who has tested positive for COVID-19. Annelies Dodds, Labour Party chair, said it's clear the Prime Minister hasn't learned any from what happened last time he tried to cook up a reason to be above the rules everyone else has to follow. Senior Conservatives are really taking the public for fools. This is yet another example of one rule for them and another for everyone else. On 16th August, the rules will change to allow those who are fully vaccinated to not isolate if they are identified as a close contact of somebody who tests positive for COVID-19. Last month, both Boris Johnson and Chancellor Rishi Sunak had to isolate for 10 days after coming into close contact with Health Secretary Sajid Javid, who tested positive. They initially said they could avoid isolation as they would take part in a daily testing pilot scheme, but that was met with outrage, prompting a U-turn. Mr. Johnson spent his self-isolation at Chequers, where he took part in Prime Minister's questions via video link in the final week before Parliament broke up for the summer recess. This is the article. It's so short, just 2 papers. And this is the man, okay? He's not isolating. This happened last week. The Prime Minister of England, Boris Johnson, had a trip to Scotland to meet the police department there, and so one of his staff has tested positive, but he still dares not to isolate himself because, according to what the article says, he didn't come close to anybody during the trip, not even closer than 2 meters. That's why he is not isolated. And also there are just other different ways of looking at this point, because there is a Labour Party, which is the opposition in England. It's another party. It's not Conservatives, it's Labour. They said that they blame, they're outraged with the Prime Minister because they just consider him like somebody who is fooling the people, who's just like he doesn't disrespectful. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has just like if he made up, or he cooked, or he made up a reason to not isolate. And in England, it's in general every person has to be isolated when he comes like a close contact of someone who tested positive of COVID. But he made up a reason, and they say also like the Labour says also to be a close contact of someone who is positive of COVID. It's just like has to be if you are just in the same vehicle or plane, you're gonna be considered like a close contact. But according to Mr. Johnson and his supporters and his stuff, it's like there is no reason to be just isolating if he didn't come close 2 meters close to someone who tests positive. And they say that the Prime Minister does a lot of trips across UK because he's a Prime Minister, and he always take he's always cautious and careful, and just doesn't go close to the people in order to avoid infections. And that's what makes him deciding not to isolate himself, because he's careful with what he does, and he behaves responsibly according to him. And that's why he doesn't isolate himself, because he considers that he was not a close contact of someone who is positive of coronavirus, COVID. And so the text is so simple, and it's not so much a city if I find something to add, because this is it. Boris Johnson was previously in a couple of occasions he had to do quarantine. He had to be self-isolated, and he did it a couple of times. Once at the beginning of the pandemic, and the other is just short ago with a woman who I think I see if I find her, because it's a spokesman or a spokeswoman, or I don't know. Spent his self-isolation at chicks. They initially should avoid isolation would Mr. Johnson spent his self-isolation at chicks, where he took part in minister's question last month both. Last month he isolated himself for the second time. Last month Mr. Johnson and Chancellor Rishi had to isolate for 10 days after coming into close contact with Health Secretary. Last month, so the Health Secretary of England, Sajid Javid was infected. He was positive of coronavirus, so uh, he made Boris Johnson um, and Chancellor Rishi Sunak to isolate and to quarantine for 10 days. Uh, and that was for the second time, because the first time I could remember, it was at the beginning. And Boris Johnson has to isolate himself in a flat that he had somewhere in England. And so he had to be just also take action and take responsibility that belongs to him as a prime minister, and he had to do his job from isolating Checkers, isolation at Checkers, where he took part in prime minister's question via link. Yeah, he worked via link video before Parliament. To do just his responsibility as a prime minister, and see if there is something else that I can find to add, because I couldn't expect that this text is not so controversial. There is not so much variety in it. It's like so simple. Other people on the reported isolated in Scotland after a member of other people on the trip reportedly self-isolated in Scotland after a member of Mr. Johnson's staff, but number 10 denied. Other people who were in this trip to Scotland with Mr. Johnson, with the Prime Minister of England, had reported, self-isolated. They had to do so. Except him, he says that he was careful. There is no need to do quarantine, and the prime minister has not expected. Let's see if I find something, because just not so much here to extract. Number 10 spokesperson, prime minister regularly visits communities across the UK. All aspects of visiting guidance with the COVID guidance, because he said that. He carries out his travels in with COVID guidance. He goes with a plan and with he's responsible. What he wants to mean by that. The prime minister has not into close contact. Didn't come. Mr. Johnson was away. He discussed Code 26 policing with the head of police Scotland, and visited an offshore wind farm. The staff member had tested positive for COVID in Scotland, and guidance. Well, I read the text, and I think it's simple. It's not so much to cannot open up so much, because some articles come with more discussion. They need more time, but this one just I find there nothing else to talk about. It's about the same thing. You can just summarize it in a sentence, and it's this man, the Prime Minister of England. He traveled to have a meeting in Scotland. He did so. It was last week. There was a person belonging to his staff who was tested positive, and so according to him, he doesn't need to have any quarantine, because he was careful. He didn't come close to anyone, and he follows the rules, and that's why he doesn't need to isolate himself, because he's sure that nothing is going wrong because of what he behaves and what he takes, coronavirus issue. He's careful. He says that there is no need, because he behaves responsibly. Well, I have 3 words. So 3 words I brought today to to explain, the first word is offshore. Offshore. Offshore means in the coast, just like when you get out of the sea, okay, or the beach. That's you find the offshore. Okay, offshore is the area that is close to the sea or a distance, just a distance from the sea, not so far away. That's the off coast. It can be just when you get out of the sea or the beach or close. That's the offshore area or place. Yeah. Spokesman. Spokesman is another word. Spokesman means spokesperson, spokeswoman, representative person speaking as the representative of a group. So a spokesman or spokeswoman or a spokesperson can be a representative of a group of people, community, someone who speaks up for the others, who represents people and speaks for them. That's the spokesman. It can be in a group, it can be in a club, in an association. So spokesman is or spokeswoman or spokesperson is the person who speaks up for the others, whether in I don't know, a group of people, a society, anything. A spokesman is the person who represents and speaks for the others. He has the voice of those who represents. That's it. And so another word I have here is outrage. Outrage means anger. If something annoys you, bothers you, you become outrageous. You become angry. You hate it. It just take you show. You're fury. Just like it annoys. You show signs of bothering or irritation. Yeah. Irritation. Yeah, it's just you get annoyed and you show up your outrage. You become outrageous. You may scream and cry just because you are bothered, because you are disturbed. So that's what outrage means. Outrage means anger, just fury. And so this is it. I just I just don't find so much to add to this episode, because the text is so simple. There is not so much to talk about. Just the Prime Minister of England find it unnecessary to isolate himself, to have other third quarantine, because he considers that he's careful with COVID, with coronavirus. That's why there is no need for him to just self-isolate himself. And the Labour Party, of course, criticized him, because the opposition is always critiquing and criticizing and finding to, because it's a fight between them. It's a competition. It's it's normal in politics that people from leaders or people from other party will never clap to you or say that you are doing very well. They, of course, for sure, they won't agree with you, because it's the opposition. So you cannot expect from them, agreements or applauses or anything like that. You just have always to find negative things in order to keep, pushing you to yeah, to cope with responsibilities and work, and not or never just trust or just stop behaving as you should be, because once you are a leader, there are people who want to take over, who want to be in your place. So what they have to do is just to chase you, to fight you and to observe you and to watch you, critique you, to just to show up what you have to show up. Otherwise, so they ask you to to leave that place, to abandon, because there are people who, with desire to take the same place, same position. And this is normal in politics. So I think it's clear. It's It's not so much. And well, look, finally I've added another episode. I'm doing working on a series. I'm bringing articles that are connected to England, those themes, those issues that are, connected to England, the UK, Great Britain in general. Just when I find someone appropriate and interesting, just I copy and I come. And this is how I will be working for still a long time, because I'm just this is my 11th episode, I think. Yeah. And well, still have much to add, and of course I will until I finish. And when I finish, for sure, I won't disappear. I will just think about something different, and then I bring it, work on it, follow it till the end. And that's how we will be doing it for, as I said, as I say, uh, I will just stick here for some years. I think maybe 2, maybe 3, depends. I will watch, my improvement. Or I'm watching what is changing always. I can notice a lot. That's why I'm sure it's gonna be it's gonna be incredible by after 2 or 3 years working constantly on this language. And the people who study English or foreign languages, I think it does worth it to watch, just to see if to compare. For example, myself, just when I started with those points I get to, because there's a big difference. And there are a lot of people who have just that ability, just like abilities and skills are different. They have 4 skills in language. And you just have people are good at reading, others are good at speaking, someone's maybe good at listening, or others can be good at writing. That depends. But we as people who learn foreign languages, you have to work on all skills. And so I think it does worth it, and it's very much better to have, the foreign language that you learn is so balanced at all the skills that it combines. Because if you are good at speaking, not that well at reading. If you are good at listening and not good at writing, so it's just they have 4 activities, and you have to work on all of them in order to build them up and to balance your foreign language that you learn. And so, well, my intention is just I am working on my skills, and I have this discipline because I watch so much TV. I also waste so much time with my mobile. Sometimes when I work, and that's why. So I like reading. I like improving, and I decided finally to create and start and initiate an activity, which is this one, and keep on studying. This is like I'm coming here to give a class for myself. And so, but I think it's good to just to do to do this sort of things, because it's something positive. And there are a lot of people who are doing just studying this language at the university. It's something that I can become, I don't know, teachers or some employees with the government. It's you can just make a living with this language. That's why it's not something that is useless, of no value. No, it's so priceless, so precious. It's so important. And that's why I think it's good to be adding to it, building it up a little by little, stay there, because that's how it goes. Because the more you know, it's like the more easy everything becomes. I think it's here really important. And so this I cannot say, say I think more. It just it's clear. I'm just coming here to have a class myself, and I'm sharing it there. If can somebody, I don't know, work or get inspired, motivated, or have any observation notes, that's acceptable. I just, I'm not selfish, so I show what I do, and this is something that I am doing, beside than the other things that I do, of course, in my life. But this one thing is something that I share with that I share publicly. So I'm gonna be adding there, every time an episode. When I finish activities, I start other ones until I get tired. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.